everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video, and today we're going to be going over some more Theros Beyond Death in-depth spoilers. Before we get into today's video, guys, let me please ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean so much to me and I'd greatly appreciate it. But without further ado, let us get into today's video, starting with Lagonn Clan Narrator. It's a 3 and a white creature centaur advisor uncommon. It says when Lagonn Clan Narrator enters the battlefield, you may put target enchantment card from your graveyard on top of your library. If you do, gain life equal to its converted mana cost. And it is a 3/4 for 4. So, I didn't really have any thoughts about this card. Other than it's kind of going with the whole Theros theme so far about Enchanter, and you'll see that a lot today. They even put out, stay tuned for a Planeswalker Enchanter today. But anyways, I don't exactly know if this will or will not end up in Standard. As far as, Limited, if there's some good enchantments in Limited and Sealed, then possibly we can see Lagonn Clan Narrator being used there. Our next card of the day is Destiny Weaver. 1 generic, 1 green mana, creature, enchantment, human. It is uncommon, and it says creature and enchantment spells you control can't be countered. And it has the ability to pay 3 generic and 1 green. Target land you control becomes an XX elemental until at the end of your turn. With haste in trample, where X is the number of enchantments you control. It's still a land. So this is still going based off of the whole Enchanter idea, which honestly Enchanter is probably going to be either in Selesnya or Bant. And it's going to be really cool because now, you know, having a turn 2 my spells can't be countered is pretty good, because it mainly that counter spells happen either with 2 mana or 3 mana. So if you're starting the game, you can lock down the game out of a control player's control pretty quickly with this card. The other ability, I don't know if it's going to be a real big thing. Maybe in like a tax deck where you have a lot of enchantments and you're trying to slow down the game, but all of a sudden you have a reason for having all these enchantments. You make this big XX elemental creature with haste and trample until the end of turn. So possibly it could be seeing a lot of play. It could be seeing no play. I really don't know if Enchanter is going to be a big thing, as well as the ability itself being that good. The next card is Skophos, Skophos' Labyrinth Guardian, and it is 3 generic and a red for a creature Minotaur Warrior uncommon. It says pay 1 generic, Skophos' Labyrinth Guardian gets +1/-1 until end of turn. The other thing it says is when another target creature becomes the target of a land you control named Labyrinth of Skophos, you may have Skophos' Labyrinth Guardian fight that creature. And here's that, the Labyrinth of Skophos. It is not, and I repeat this, not a legendary land according to this picture. This of course is not a, sanctioned preview, the Labyrinth of Skophos, but is a elite card nonetheless. As far as this creature goes, it's very interesting to see that they built a creature around a land that they also are dropping in the same set. I'm wondering if there's going to be any other creatures that go with Labyrinth of Skophos, and there's like some type of Labyrinth of Skophos deck. That'd be pretty cool. And I'd like to see that happen. As far as this card goes, I don't really have much else to talk about it, so let's move on to the next card. Altar of the Pantheon, 3 generic, it's an artifact, and it's a common. Your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. Tap it and add 1 mana of any color. If you control a god, a demigod, or a legendary enchantment, you gain 1 life. So it's a 3 generic mana, any color mana rock. But it also gives you this whole big, and I say big, it's not necessarily that huge, but I think it gives you a decent advantage to your devotion, especially because you can play 4 of these in the same deck. My question to this card is, when it says your devotion to each color and each combination of colors, that could mean one of two things. It could mean that if you're, for instance, playing a Selesnya, that you have a devotion towards green and white and the color combination of green and white, or you just have the first two, the green and white. So I don't know if it doubles up, if it gives you 4 mana in my example there, or if it, or 4 devotion, I should say, in my example there, or if it only gives you 2, or maybe even just gives you 1. I really don't know. We're going to need a ruling on this card because I'm no English professor nor a judge, so from my point of view, I can't tell. But let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Maybe this card, if it did exactly what it kind of sounds like it's doing, kind of sounds cool. Another thing it could be saying here is because it is increased by 1, that it has no devotion at 0, but once you put a creature down that's green, your green devotion goes to 2, but if you put your creature down that's also Selesnya color, then you get green and white from the Selesnyan creature as an addition. So I don't know. We'll see. Sea God Scorn, 4 generic 2 blue mana sorcery uncommon. Return up to 3 target creatures and or enchantments to their owner's hands. Instead of performing their daily devotions, Heliod's acolytes spent the morning picking strands of kelp off the altar. That's funny. Return up to 3 target creatures and or enchantments to their owner's hand. That's kind of been done before. There was a card in Kaladesh, and of course I can't think of it now that I'm making the video, but I believe it did something very similar, and then lets you play a spell for free. So I don't really think this card will see play for real, other than the fact that it also can target enchantments. Eidolon of Obstruction, 1 generic 1 white enchantment creature spirit, and it is a rare. It is a first strike 2/1 that says loyalty abilities of planeswalkers your opponents control cost 1 more to activate. Death turned admirable conviction into pointless intransigency. God, that is a weird word. So this card is pretty cool, especially for Commander, because it's the first card I've ever really seen tax a planeswalker. Your planeswalker cannot do an ability unless you're willing to pay a mana for it. In Standard, you can have 4 of these cards, potentially, and your planeswalker cannot do a loyalty ability unless you play 4 mana for it. And then at that point, you start wondering if planeswalkers are not worth it at that point in time, if they're just useless and sit on the battlefield. So I like it, I really do. It reminds me of Tocatli Honor Guard. It reminds me of kind of like a Ghostly Prison. I know those 2 cards are vastly different than this, but it's the whole idea of taxing your opponent in a different way than usual. So I like it, I really do. Taranika Akroan Veteran, 1 generic and 2 white mana, legendary creature, human soldier, rare. It has vigilance. Whenever Taranika Akroan Veteran attacks, untap another target creature you control until end of turn. That creature has base power and toughness 4/4 and gains indestructible. I like to think Kytheon keeps watch over all of us, and it is a 3/3. So I like this card because it can potentially pair well with multiple different cards. The first, of course, being a card that wants to get damage in. All of a sudden becoming a 4/4 with Indestructible. Either your opponent's going to have a viable blocker that's bigger so they don't really lose anything, or they're going to have just a chump blocker continuously. And if you're able to give that creature trample as well, that's pretty good. But let's just keep, for instance, Towering Wave Mystic. Deals damage, target player puts that many cards from the bottom of their library into their graveyard. So if you're making them mill 4 cards a turn per Towering Wave Mystic, that can be pretty good. The other idea I had just off the top of my head was like Krinko. And if I understand this correctly, you can stack the abilities because they're both your abilities, and you can make Taranika resolve before Krinko's does. And that way, Krinko becomes a 4/4 that gets a +1/+1 counter, and then creates that many 1/1 Red Goblin creature tokens. I believe that's how that goes. I feel like I'm wrong just because I'm normally wrong, but I feel like that's how that goes. Since they're both on the attack. So, could be fun. And then, of course, Krinko will untap, so it'll give it pseudo-vigilance. And be a lot of fun. Dreamshper Shaman. 5 generic and a red enchantment creature, Minotaur Shaman. It is an uncommon, and says at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 2 generic and a red, and sacrifice a non-land permanent. If you do, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land permanent card. Put that card onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Magic is the true artist's meditation, and it is a 5/4. This card's pretty cool. And I really think if I had to give a card of the day, this card would definitely get it because it is amazing. It's a lot of mana, sure. 6 mana to get in red is kind of hard, but Big Red can make a comeback. Big Red can definitely make a comeback. But his ability, at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 3 mana, sacrifice a creature, like let's say one of these useless 1/1 Satyr creature tokens, and go find a creature. Because you're not going to have tokens in your library, but you're going to have a creature, and you can put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library. So I like that, I really do. Another idea was to use the 2/2 Pegasus from Akroan of Sun's Grace. Another idea is, let's say for instance you have a Gilded Goose, and you get these food tokens. Well, the food tokens are, it's an artifact. Yeah, I was double checking myself because I didn't actually do that earlier. So yes, it is an artifact. It's an artifact with 2 generic and tap it. So yes, and then you can get a card like the Great Henge, and all of a sudden you are way ahead, based off of just a useless piece of crap that you'll never use. I actually thought about that with Annex. The 1/1 red Satyr creature tokens that you get from Annex. I was like, what do you want to do with that? Dreamshper Shaman. Absolutely. Dreamshper Shaman. In fact, Dreamshper Shaman plus Annex makes it to where you're consistently getting those 1/1 Satyr creature tokens to continuously sacrifice to Dreamshper Shaman. So, just saying, as well as because Dreamshper Shaman is not a legendary, if you have 2 Dreamshper Shamans on the battlefield, you have 6 mana, assuming. Then you can use both their abilities and just not even cast anything from your hand. Just keep your hand back as a secondary and just play cards from your library. And that's insane. It's pretty insane. The next card is pretty cool. Kind of a lot of words, so let's bear through it. Thassa's Oracle. It is 2 blue mana, creature merfolk wizard rare. It is a 1/3 that says, when Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your devotion to blue. Put up to one of them on top of your library, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. If X is greater than or equal to the number of cards in your library, you'll win the game. And of course, it explains devotion as each blue symbol and the mana cost of permanents you control counts towards your devotion to blue. This card has 2 blue devotion. So this card, an alternate 1 card, is always fun. I love blue because they keep on getting them. And to put that in retrospect, the 2 cards I wanted to talk about with this was Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and Gadwick. Jace Waters of Mysteries actually has an alternate win con very similar. It wants a low deck count so that you can draw out to win the game, or you could just play Thassa's Oracle. I love Thassa's Oracle because it's only 2 freaking mana. It really is. So you play Jace, Water of Mysteries, mill yourself out. Jace and Gadwick both have 3 blue mana in their devotion. So if you, in fact, had all 3 of these out at the same time, which you can, on curve, 2, 3, and 4, if you had, 8 or less cards in your graveyard or in your library, you win the game. So I really like that idea. That's going to be a fun card to build around. There's already an idea for self-milling, and I just think that this is going to be an insane card in Standard. The next card on today's agenda is Enigmatic Incarnation. 2 generic and a green and a blue. Enchantment rare. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice another enchantment. If you do, search your library for a creature card with converted mana cost equal to 1 plus the sacrificed enchantment's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So, I'm not smart enough to do this, but there is this number of games that we played with Vannifar, and I feel like there was one other card I'm just not remembering that was like a sorcery that did almost the same as Vannifar. But basically, if you do search for a creature card with random mana, yeah, basically it was all about sacrificing with numbers, knowing your deck and the CMC in your deck, and fixing it to where you're always going to get the same creature from sacrificing this creature. And I think what it was like, if I'm not mistaken, it was like Llanowar into Incubation Druid into, I forget what the third 3-drop was. I think it was like Silverleaf Champion into some 4-drop, and it was just ridiculous because every single turn you'd get that exact card, but you knew what you were going to get. So it was very weird. Some genius made it, and I just kudos to you because I'm not playing the number game. But yeah, this could be a lot of fun. And of course, if you're making a Prime Speaker Vannifar deck in Commander, this would be a card for that. The next card is Furious Rise. 2 generic, 1 red, enchantment, uncommon. At the beginning of your end step, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card until you exile another card with Furious Rise. Klothys set out to mend the destiny of Theros, her fury guiding every stitch. This is kind of like a light up the stage with the ability to play land, because it does say you may play that card instead of you may cast that card. But a good way to get this off is actually to use the card from previously today, Taranika. Just having Taranika make those 4/4 creatures until the end of turn, and at the beginning of your end step, you'll be able to do that kind of pseudo light up the stage. So kind of neat, kind of cool. It's only 3 mana. It's an enchantment that just sits there, but it possibly could get you some help. I don't know if I like it. Here he is, Calix, Destiny's Hand, and it is 2 generic, a green, and a white. Legendary Planeswalker Calix, and it is a mythic rare Planeswalker. +1, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal an enchantment card from among them and put that card into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. And -3, exile target creature or enchantment you don't control until target enchantment you do control leaves the battlefield. Return -7, return all enchantment cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. It is a 4 loyalty commander for 4. So, as far as commanders go, there's this whole big test for commanders. The number one is, does it protect itself? No, it does not. Not necessarily. I mean, you kind of need help from an enchantment to protect it, as well as its +1 is not a protection for itself. The next thing is, does it have this god-shattering plus ability? No, it does not. It is basically a draw card, a limited tutor, as I call it, looking at the top 4 cards of your library. And the last thing is, does it do something cool for its ultimate, as well as is the loyalties on par? Well, the loyalty counters are on par. It's 4 mana for 4 loyalties. That's not bad. The -7 ability in Standard is not that great, in my opinion. Return all enchantment cards from graveyard to the battlefield. That's kind of yeah. But this card did remind me of a lot of things in Commander. So the number one thing is, it reminded me of like a baby Estrid the Masked, because like it does a couple of the different not really the same for the +2 and the +1, not the same for the -3 and the -1, but that whole -7 thing is it's very similar, and I dig it. I like it. The thing that it also reminded me of is Prison Realm, where it, for the -3 ability, basically does Prison Realm, except for creature or enchantment, instead of creature or planeswalker. But what you could do is you could Prison Realm turn 3, put down Calix Destiny's Hand turn 4, and then instantly use that Prison Realm to Prison Realm another creature or enchantment. So I really like this card. I think that I feel like there's been enough push that there is going to be some type of Enchantress deck, and either Selesnya or Bat again. And I really think that this is going to be a fun time to be here. I really wish they'd add some of these, some of the reprints for enchanters. Like, I think there was a Satyr enchanter not too long ago in Standard that every single time you play an enchantment, you draw a card. I wish they'd reprint that, but we got some cards, and hopefully Standard will be pretty fun, pretty sweet if you enjoy enchantments and other shenanigans, like my lovely Oracle of the Day. But anyways, guys, thank y'all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that usual YouTube stuff. And this is Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.